I'd like to introduce the lovely Cat Baker-Bassett. You are MD of Dab Apps in Brighton. Kat she's managing director at Dab Apps. She's passionate about building inclusive teams, solving real world problems through tech, and creating exceptional digital products.
Thank you so much. Thanks to you folks for inviting me. I've been to a few of these meetups and they're great. It's really like I've been going to events in Brighton, kind of tech and digital community events for probably 12 or so years now, and it's really great to see that is kind of growing just along the coast. I think it's really important for us to try and connect the communities and the different organisations and people that work between these dots along the coast and a bit further inland and stuff. So thanks for having me. And we sponsored and went to DigiFest last year, hoping we might be able to still do sponsorship this year. And it was a really great day, and again, just kind of joining different communities together from the region. So it was brilliant. Get involved and go along if you're able to. So I am going to talk a little bit about how I've come to be the managing director of a tech company without any technical background or experience. I mean, I do now because I've been there for over 10 years, so I've learned some stuff. So I guess this talk is about kind of lots of things, but it's how I've ended up leading a software agency without learning to code, without having any kind of a tech background. In fact, I don't have any formal training at all. I didn't go to university. I did my A-levels and then was like, I don't really know, and probably spent quite a lot of my 20s going to traveling a lot on what was very extended gap years, and working in pubs and generally being in pubs. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I got here, and how I think asking good questions and listening are kind of more powerful than trying to have all the answers. Nobody does. Just another couple of things. So I am a mentor for a brilliant organisation called the Girls Network. They do really great work with girls in schools of secondary school age, not specifically just for tech or digital, but all sorts of different subjects. And actually the subject matter kind of doesn't really come into it. You're paired up based on their personality and their aspirations and where they are and that kind of thing. If anyone's interested in finding more about that, then have a chat to me or get in touch afterwards. And I'm also on an advisory board for an organisation that some of you may well know, called Tech Natives, which is Dan Wallman. So he does a lot of work in the education sector, and we sponsored a couple of placements on his first programming boot camp that he did. So they're fully funded placements for 4 months, and they're full time, and they're for people who are either have studied some level of computer science and want to go into programming, or are self-taught, or are looking at a career transition. So a couple of the people that we've now employed are doing that. And again, a really brilliant organisation, and they've just won a load of bids to work across different colleges in the area, which is awesome as well. So shout if you want to find out about any more about those things. So if you told me 15 years ago that I would be running a tech company, I would have laughed at you. I would not have been able to give you a description of what software was, what a web app was, or a mobile app. I would have been pretty lost on that altogether. The closest that I'd got to it probably was overseeing marketing kind of website updates and those kind of things. So that was as close to technology as I got, to be honest. So I guess I kind of, once I got back from living over like abroad, and I worked in pubs and hospitality for a long time, which I think is a really valuable thing for people to do. It's builds resilience, and working with the general public is it's a real learning curve. I think it's a great thing to do. It means that you have to deal with all sorts of different people. So I did a lot of that, but I was kind of fed up with it, and I was making crap money, and I didn't feel like I was being challenged or learning anything in any way. So I started volunteering for a charity called MenCap, at a local branch in their fundraising and marketing office, and they needed someone one day a week to just help them out with stuff. And I said, sure, I'll do that, because it sounded interesting. I like people, I like communication. Marketing felt like it might be a good fit. It was pretty much a stab in the dark, to be honest. So I spent about 5 or 6 years doing that, and I ended up getting, through my volunteering role at MenCap, I ended up getting a full-time role at a company based in Cambridge, and I kind of became their marketing manager. And then I had some big life stuff happen, and I ended up moving to Brighton, and quit my job. And my parents were like, what are you doing without a job to move here with? But it was all worked out fine in the end. So I spent a few more years here in Brighton, working in marketing, sales, business development, and that sort of thing. But I just kind of got to a point where it was like, I felt like it had plateaued. I wasn't really learning. I didn't feel like I was sort of being challenged. I didn't really feel like I had anywhere to grow. And so I was talking to a friend one day about this, and she has worked in kind of digital, I guess. That's the umbrella, I guess, it used to come under. I feel like a lot of it comes under tech now, probably. And she said, well, I'm going to various different events. Why don't you come along to some and meet some people and just, figure out what's going on in and around Brighton career-wise. So I did that, and I went to an event called She Says. She Says is an international organisation, and they do lots around kind of diversity in tech and empowering women, and that kind of stuff, and it's brilliant. And I've actually done a couple of talks for them now, which is weird, because the first event that I went to about becoming kind of a women in tech was a She Says event. So it was a nice full circle. So at that event, that was really the first time that I thought, oh, so like working in tech is something that is possible for kind of anyone, I suppose. And like that women in tech was like a thing. And so I kind of thought maybe that could be my thing. It was like this tiny little, I don't know, spark of interest, because it was something that I knew really nothing about, but it felt like there was crossover with, in terms of, understanding people and requirements, I guess, and those sorts of things, that felt like there was a bit of synergy. And just a little thing that I wanted to add there. So at the time, and actually still today, only around 19% of the tech workforce in the UK are women, and there are even fewer in leadership positions. So being there felt like, I still really, really remember it clearly, being there that evening and listening to the speakers. That felt really significant, and doing this stuff now does as well. So a few introductions. Oh, look, I've talked too long for this to stay on the screen. So a few introductions later, I joined DabApps as their first non-technical hire. So I joined a team of programmers, developers, engineers, and I honestly did not know what anyone was talking about for about 6 months. But I like building relationships, and I like good communication, and that's kind of fundamental to lots of transferable skills in working life anyway. So I didn't know anything about tech, but they took a chance on me, and I took a chance on a new career. I had a lot of curiosity and a willingness to learn. I think something that Chris, who's one of the founders of the company, still says now is, when you joined, I thought, I don't know what she's going to do. I'm 10.5 years in and I'm still pretty busy, so I think we're okay. So in terms of kind of leadership and becoming comfortable with that and growing in the various different roles I've had at DabApps, I guess one of the biggest things that I've learned over the last decade or so is that you definitely do not need to know everything to lead and to be a good leader. I think when I started, I felt really, and this was like I think this was kind of on me as opposed to the environment I was in, because they've always been massively supportive, but I was kind of really scared that I was going to be found out to not know what I was talking about. And I felt like guilty and worried that I didn't know what programmers were talking about. And I was like, oh God, I need to know all of this stuff. I can't be doing any kind of a job at a tech company when I don't know what they're kind of talking about. Anyway, I had to get over that, because otherwise it wouldn't have made any sense of anything. And I had to ask questions that at the time felt stupid or silly. There's no such thing, just ask them. And I guess I kind of gradually realised that actually asking questions kind of is the work in what we do, well, in what lots of people do. That's kind of what like product thinking is. And it's kind of what leadership is, right? It's like asking your team questions and listening and all of that stuff. I also have learned and still learn from my colleagues, like every day. They are often better at what they do than I could ever be. And on the transition from kind of being a project manager when I became a PM full-time at DabApps into then ops director and hiring project managers, I spent many evenings thinking, but they're a better project manager than me. Oh God, then they're going to join and then they'll just be promoted to the ops director. And like, that's just not how it works. You need people on your team who are better than you, like 100%. You will learn from them, they will learn from you. And to be doing the best work collectively as a team that you can be, you need lots of you need a diverse team. You need people who have different strengths and weaknesses. So I guess that's just a maturity thing, really, and it's kind of an experience thing. I guess the other thing, so kind of seeing that as like a strength as opposed to being intimidated by it or worried about it, and also being allowed to make mistakes. I made many in my first few years at DabApps, but that was okay. And people make mistakes in their personal lives, they make them in their professional lives. You have to be allowed to do that, and you have to also, now with my team, I have to be supportive and understanding and all of those sorts of things. When people do make mistakes, because they'll happen, we're all just humans, right? That's how we learn as well. It's how we learn and grow and all of that stuff. Another thing that I was just going to touch on here was around imposter syndrome. So from what I just said, probably comes across that I did feel, have felt some of that, still feel some of that. However, I've been having some conversations recently that actually maybe that isn't particularly helpful language. So it's like another barrier for people when they're kind of thinking about being in a professional environment or an environment they're not totally comfortable with. So I think there's some interesting conversations around what label we give that, and whether that's something that is used more for underrepresented groups or by underrepresented groups in industries where they are imposters, right? The system is designed for those people to be and feel like imposters. That doesn't mean things aren't getting better all of the time. I think they are. I hope they are. But yeah, we exist in a system that has been designed to make us feel out of place to some extent. And we're still trying to improve that. And again, coming back to sort of leading teams and reflecting on my own experiences, I think it's allowing, like, opening up conversations around that. If someone on a team is feeling like that way, I want them to be able to come to me or someone else on the team and say, I feel overwhelmed by this thing. I feel like I can't, I'm not good enough or I can't cope, because then you can just have a conversation about it and why they're feeling like that and actually try and solve that problem. Yeah, we need to kind of make those conversations more like normalized, and so that teams and workspaces feel really inclusive. I guess the other thing as well, just on this slide, is that it can feel kind of really, I guess it can feel quite overwhelming if you are feeling like you've got imposter syndrome, or people on your team are feeling like that. And I guess the thing that I now always try and keep in mind is that really small actions can have quite a big impact. And I guess that's the same for anything, right? That's the same for like micro activism or whatever it might be. Small things can make a really big difference. So me saying to someone who's on my team who might be struggling with confidence that I've had those feelings as well, like even just that kind of catalyst might be enough to make them feel comfortable about opening up about that. Yeah, I think it's kind of about trying to empower people, not micromanage them. That's horrible. It doesn't lead to good outcomes. and honestly, it's how I have been supported at DABAPS, and it's how I kind of continue to aim to lead the team as well. And ultimately, if people feel like that, then they're going to do their best work. Yeah. Let's try. I was going to talk a little bit more about what we do at DABAPS. So we build digital products, we create software, but basically what we do, and what everyone probably does in some capacity in the workplace, is solve problems for people. So we work in healthcare, education, sustainability, kind of climate tech space, and other sectors. Like, we've been fairly sector agnostic for a long time. But we try and make it sort of people first, and we try and look at why something is being made. Like, why does this product need to be designed and developed and put out into the world? What problems is it going to solve? Yeah, so we basically do kind of full service, from like business analysis to UX and build and maintenance. And just another kind of stat here. So I was reading about the number of, so there's massive numbers of UK kind of tech startups. About 60% of those fail within the first 3 years of being started. That's actually starting to drop, interestingly. But the number of established businesses that have been running for longer, failing after 7+ years, is going up. So, yeah. So I guess it's really just coming back to that whole point about looking at what problem are you trying to solve whenever we're talking to clients, and actually taking the time to listen to what they're saying and try and then come up with solutions that are going to solve those problems, and not just doing things for the sake of it, but doing it because it's going to solve a problem, or it's going to make life better for a user or something. Yeah, we've got lots of clients that have been with us for we've been going for about 15 years, and we've got loads of people that have been with us for a lot of that time. So we've got really good long lasting relationships, and I think that kind of partnership approach and that collaboration is just really important, both within your team but also to extending that to clients. Start with the right questions. So clever doesn't mean that it's useful. We have probably all seen products, sites, etc., that look really good but actually aren't solving the right problem. And I guess that's kind of going back to that point about I mean, this is only at a very high level, of course, and there are loads of other factors. But going back to that point about tech startups failing within 3 years or so, you've got to be asking the right questions and having the right kind of group of people thinking about those questions and the possible answers from the get-go. And also, what we see quite often with people is that they're trying to kind of design the solution themselves before they've really, and it also might be a problem that they have within their business, but actually they're paying customers. That makes no difference too. So it's kind of trying to establish exactly where those kind of barriers are. Asking the why and basically kind of unblocking their challenges to growth. Like if a client is saying, has a really clear goal, this is what we want to achieve in the next 3 years, and this is and we can get to the bottom of what's stopping them, then we can advise on, okay, we can start thinking about what do we add to your existing product, or what do you build on top of that to mean that you're unblocking that? Because the more successful they are, the more successful we are. We've had a few examples of this recently, which might not be surprising, where clients have come to us and said, we just need to add AI. And it's like, okay, what do you need to add? Why do you think you need to add it? And I guess, again, it's just kind of trying to understand what the real issue was. So one example that we had of that, they said that they wanted to kind of add some AI to their onboarding process. So onboarding clients to their, users of their site. This was an internal tool. But basically, it was just about clearer UX and signposting to find the right things. They didn't need to add something more. They didn't need to add another integration. They just needed to give us the feedback that they were getting from the users of the system, and then we could have a think about how to solve that. And probably ultimately did ourselves out of some revenue, but that's fine because it was doing the right thing. I guess we kind of try and go with the principle of it doesn't matter like how, I don't know, kind of shiny you think the solution could be. If it's not solving a real problem, then it isn't worth doing. And I think they're really good conversations to have early on as well. And I think they help build trust too, if you can have those really transparent chats. Okay, so this probably is fairly familiar to lots of you folks. We have to understand stuff, define it, then we can build it and we can improve on it. Discovery is kind of at the heart of what we do. We have to talk to users. We had a client who had a product owner who didn't like talking to their users, which is an interesting position. So I think it's just always trying to reinforce that stuff and say, you need to listen and observe and learn from the people that are using whatever platform is in front of them, or not even a platform. If they're following offline processes, if they're still storing stuff in filing cabinets and they need to digitize it, you need to observe and look at what those people are doing, what pain points they've got, what barriers have they got, what inefficiencies have they got, and then you can start to go, okay, this is how we might be able to try and solve that for you with software. That's also the really fun and exciting bit. And when I kind of first started realizing that was going to be part of what I did, I was like, oh, this is where I think I can add value. I don't know how to architect a system. Maybe I have a slightly better idea now. Or, design database schemas, or write Python or JavaScript or anything, but I can listen to people, I can understand their pain points, and I can think about how those problems might be solved now that I understand what software is and does. Okay, touched on this a little bit. So where AI does and doesn't fit. This is obviously a big topic of conversation at the moment. We need to use it where it genuinely improves things. So that might be summarizing content, it might be speeding up admin tasks and adding efficiencies, helping people find what they need faster. But there are also much bigger picture things here where AI can be valuable. And I think it's a really interesting time. So that example of clients just coming to us and saying, just add something. We need to add something with AI because if we don't, we're not going to get investment in our next round, or I don't know, whatever it is. Our customers are kind of demanding that we have this. But I think you have to be, again, going back to the whole problem solving nature of what we do, you have to ask why. Why are they adding it? What's the desired outcome from them adding AI to a project? The other thing that I think is really exciting about the massive advancements with AI is that I think it is starting to make and will continue to make tech and tech careers more accessible to a wider range of people. And I think, that's kind of part of, we do work experience placements and programs and going and doing mentoring or talks to different people. And I think trying to kind of open up those doors to people who may not have been encouraged or may not have felt like tech as the umbrella was a kind of space for them. I do think that probably the advancements in AI, the fact that so many more people are using it and are going to continue to use it in their day-to-day, the fact that you can use things to create like rapid prototypes, and yet they'll fall apart as soon as you try and do anything complicated or whatever it might be. But that still means that there's much more access to a whole heap of tools and a whole world and career opportunities that previously probably wouldn't have been, and it would not have been so widely talked about. I'm 41, and at school I can honestly say I wouldn't have known what computer science was. I didn't know what programming was. And I think that, we need to try and make this whole sector so much more accessible to a wider kind of audience, and talk about the different opportunities there are as well. And how a crossover or cross-functional kind of skills are really powerful as well. So if you're an engineer who is also interested in or able to do kind of project management methodology type stuff and all of those sorts of things, because there is crossover in all of the roles, of course, then that's gonna make you a more kind of powerful member of the team, I guess. So I really hope that this shift is going to mean that hopefully younger people from different kind of backgrounds are with different perspectives who would not have previously seen themselves kind of represented in tech this might open a bit more of a door for them. And there's lots of differing opposing opinions about AI and whether it's kind of a good thing or a bad thing, and there's lots of different arguments for both sides of that. But I think there's an opportunity for it to be for it to open up access to people who have previously not done that. Okay, so having said all of that, people still matter most. Building good tech means you have to have good teams behind it. You need to have openness, inclusion, for people to feel kind of safe and comfortable saying what they think and asking questions. And also that's where innovation comes in. Because if you've got a team that don't feel comfortable opening up and talking and putting forward ideas, you're not going to get innovation. I guess it's essentially kind of learning that as you get older, everyone's kind of differences and strengths and weaknesses help build kind of each other's confidence and understanding of how different people work and that kind of stuff. Um, and I guess the other thing to kind of go back to this, the people factor, and also the AI point of opening doors and kind of increasing, hopefully continuing to kind of increase diversity. That's just still massively important. So there's loads of data that backs up that more diverse teams deliver better products, right? But in the UK, we've only got 4% of tech professionals are from Black, Caribbean, African, Caribbean, or Black British backgrounds, and 16 from Asian backgrounds. Again, those numbers decrease in leadership positions as well. And the same applies for LGBTQ plus communities. So kind of just trying to open up that those opportunities to kids in schools, whatever, regardless of their background, by whether it's via making things seem less scary in terms of the tech by using AI and teaching them what is possible and what they can do, whether that's mentoring and talking about the different roles that there are. So you don't have to be a programmer to work in tech. You can learn to be a product owner, or you can become a UX or behavior expert. I think it's just really important to kind of keep putting yourself out there. And again, those small, seemingly small actions can have really big repercussions. You know, if I go and do that mentoring and one person that I talk to out of that whole group of girls goes on and says, okay, maybe I can go and look at doing a whatever it might be course, then like that's made an impact. One of the work experience programs that we've done, I've gone back every year, probably for about 4 years, and there's always about a group of 40, and every single year I go back and there are no more than 2 girls in the whole group. And it's like this has to change, but it also has to start changing earlier. And so I hope that all of the stuff that we've talked about today kind of means that continues to happen increasingly so in schools and at kind of younger ages. Representation basically matters. I remember the same friend who introduced me to the people at DabApp. She's a very good connector and networker. I said that I was kind of looking for a mentor, and she put me in touch with another queer woman who had run a tech agency in Brighton years before I had got to the kind of managing director position. And I was like, I was so excited to go and meet her, because I was like, oh my God, there's another like openly queer person, which shouldn't even be a thing, but sure, who is running a tech company, who isn't from a technical background. And I was like, this is probably 8 years ago or something, and I was like, oh my God, she could be my mentor. If she can do it, then maybe I can too. So yeah, I think that stuff really matters, and I think it's even if it's scary to stand up and talk in front of people, it's a good thing to do, and to create a space where basically people feel kind of comfortable to be themselves, ask those questions, admit when they don't know something, and try things out as well. Okay, I've probably covered most of this already, but practical tips for building great tech without all the answers. What is the why? What's the real problem that you're trying to solve? And like really, really keep going on that as much as you can, like a toddler. Why? to kind of everything, until you can really try and distill that down. Who are we building it for? So often people will come to us with a solution, but again, it's for their role. It's not for the people who even might be paying them for their product, or the people on their teams. And it's like, that's not the problem, and you're not the user that we should be solving this for. We need to look at kind of the wider impact. That's not saying that conversation is always easy, but it's necessary. yeah, are we solving something real, or are we just adding shiny things for the sake of it? And the AI tools can be absolutely used as a kind of a launch pad. They're not a shortcut. They can help you explore, they can help you test things, they can help you gain confidence in what it is that you're building. There's like the kind of intersection of asking those questions on a sort of human level and understanding them, and using AI to kind of bolster your findings and help you distill that stuff down is really powerful. And then finally, I guess, what can I learn from the people around me? And taking that kind of fear out of the equation and thinking, this isn't about someone being better than me, it's about us learning from each other genuinely. So I guess a few more final takeaways. Although I feel like this doesn't really apply so much to this audience, I should go and do this in a school. You don't need to write code, a computer science degree, or any degree, as it turns out, to thrive in tech. We don't need any more rockstar programmers. We need curious people who care about solving problems. And I really do believe that AI, and I hope that AI can hold open that door kind of wider. You definitely don't need to have all of the answers to lead. You just need to be able to talk to people, listen to people, communicate, and I think just be open and honest and transparent. You do need to care about the problem that you're solving, and ask the right questions around it. And yeah, kind of surround yourself with people who are like-minded and also want to be solving those similar problems too. That's pretty much it.